Hey everybody, how you doing out there? This is the Trailer Park Prophet coming at you live from beautiful downtown Crestone, Colorado on Blog Talk Radio. This is Sunday on Monday. Muchas gracias for being here, everybody. Alright, I think we have a pretty good show today. A couple stories I was reading over the weekend really got to me, and I want to talk to you about them, and I don't really know how in depth I actually should go. I have some reservations. It's a story that is out there on the internet, and it concerns President Obama, and it's another angle that I haven't heard of before, and I'm really intrigued by the story. And I understand that some of these Obama stories can be fiction, or maybe they're hyper exaggerated, or maybe somebody took some literary what do you call it, excesses. But still, they're interesting stories, I swear to God. I mean, this guy, President Obama, has had two names that we know of. And he supposedly was born as Barack Hussein Obama, and then he changed his name in Indonesia to Barry Soetoro, and then at some point in time, he would have had to have changed his name back to Barack Hussein Obama. And I've always contended that that's where the rub is. That's where the mystery is. In the name changes. The where and the when. And now this story comes up that President Obama may have had a run at a third name. A third name. And I guess I'll just jump right into it. It's connected to this religion. Now, I've heard of this religion before. It's called the Subud. S-U-B-U-D. And it's an international spiritual movement that began in Indonesia in the 1920s, and it was founded by a guy named Muhammad Subud Sumo had with Jojo. Great last name. Muhammad Subud Sumo had with Jojo. He's the guy that started the Subud religion, whose basis is a spiritual exercise commonly referred to as the Langkhan Jawahan, which was said by Muhammad Subud to represent guidance from the power of God or the great life force. He claimed that Subud is not a new teaching or religion, but only that the Lathian Jiwahan represents a kind of proof that humanity is looking for. He recommended that Subud members practice a religion, but left them to make their own choice of a religion. Some members have converted to Islam, but others have found their faith in and practice of Christianity. Islam, Judaism, for example, have deepened after practicing the Lathian. Okay, and there are now approximately 83 countries that actually have Subud groups in them, with worldwide membership of about 10,000. So that's a infinitely small religion. 10,000 is minute. And let's see if there's anything else that we can learn from this. I wonder if the history will help us. Let's see. Yeah, do I want to do some of the history? I'm not sure this is going to really help us much in our journey to understand more about. Okay, just a little bit here. Here's a little bit of history. I think this is going to be helpful for you. This Pak Subud explained in talks in Subud members given beginning in the 1940s and during the 1925s. He was taking a late night walk when he had an unexpected and unusual experience. He said he found himself enveloped in a brilliant light and looked up to see what seemed like the sun falling directly onto his body, and he thought he was having a heart attack. He said he went directly home, laid down on his bed, and prepared to die, with the feeling that maybe it was his time and that he could not fight it, so he surrendered himself to God. According to the story, however, instead of dying, he was moved from within to stand up and perform movements similar to his normal Muslim prayer routine. So now we know this guy was a Muslim in the beginning that started this new religion of Subud. It seemed that he was not moving through his own volition, but was being guided by what he interpreted as the power of God. The same kind of experience reportedly happened to him for a few hours each night over a period of about 1,000 days, during which he slept little but was able to continue working full time. He said he experienced a kind of inner teaching whereby he was given to understand a variety of things spontaneously. As these experiences proceeded, Pak Subud explained, he gained spontaneous insight into people and situations and he did not possess before around 1933. As he reported, he received that if other people were physically near him while he was in a state of Lathian, then the experience would begin in them also. While still in his early 30s, Pak Subud reputation as someone with spiritual insight apparently grew, and people went to him to be opened. They in turn could open others, and this is how Subud eventually spread around the world. And we have Subud people here in Crestone, I believe. But see, this is what's interesting. You know, this guy was a Muslim, but yet his religion, his Subud, is one that recognizes all religions. And I'm thinking, let's see, I wonder what his aim. The core of Subud is the Lathian experience. The Lathian is a vivid encounter which is fresh, alive, and personal. It involves and deepens over time, it is hard to pin down in words. I wonder if they do drugs. I wonder if these guys do ayahuasca or something like that. That's what it sounds like. Vivid encounter. Pak Subud gives the following description of Subud, his religion. This is a symbol of a person who has a calm and peaceful inner feeling and who is able to receive the contact with the great holy life force. So really it's kind of a do-it-yourself religion. Which again, I got to remind you, all religion is a franchise. Whether it's Catholic, Buddhist, Baptist, Islamic, Hindu, religion is a franchise business. And what he's doing here is saying, well, look, you know, why do you need to pay franchise fees? Just start your own religion. That's what this guy's saying right here. Start your own religion. I mean, here, this is what he said. I'll read it to you again. He says, this is a symbol of a person who has a calm and peaceful inner feeling and who is able to receive the contact with the great holy life force. So, I mean, the stick is that this guy has something to offer you. Shtick as in, you know, vaudeville. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. All right, it goes on to say, as the spiritual training, and that's Latha Ki Jawan of Subud, is free from the influence of the passions, desires, and thinking, and is truly awakening by the power of Almighty God. The aim of Subud is naturally toward perfection of character according to the will of the one who awakens it, namely Almighty God. So this is a good angle here in the religious business. If you can provide somebody an atmosphere and guidance into a awakening, namely, notice he puts in there, namely, Almighty God, so that way he covers all the bases. If you don't have an awakening that includes God, well, under this contract with this brand new religion, you're covered. Goes on to say, it is also necessary to explain that the Subud is neither a kind of religion nor a teaching, but is a spiritual experience awakened by the power of God, leading to a spiritual reality free from the influence of the passions, desires, and thinking. See, this is a great religion. This is one of those religions that you can try at home. You can start your own little business in the neighborhood. If you ever wanted to be in the God business, I highly recommend this Subud. And it looks like there's, and it goes on, I mean, there's other categories we could talk about. The opening, testing, fasting, rules. Well, let's read the rules. Every religion has to have some rules, right? And Pak Subud provided advice and guidance in his talks to provide direction to members as their Lathian deepens. I love that. Your Lathian will deepen with us. Baby, I want to help you with your deepening Lathnia. Although in general there are no rules in the practice of Lathan, a couple of important practices that might be called rules are that men and women do not do Lathian together. What? And non-members may not attend the Lathian exercise without first receiving the contact referred to above, known as their opening. Subud's founder wanted the Lathian to be accessible to people of all cultures, faiths, and races. Respect for the diversity of personal backgrounds and the uniqueness of each individual, along with the general absence of thou shalt nots. a general absence of thou shalt nots, meaning that this is a religion of relativism. The means justify the ends. This is the kind of religion Saul Alinsky would love. All aspects of the organization that have been attractive to many members. Now there's so anyway, that gives you like a pretty good idea about this little religion. And let's see, what if they have, let's see, practicing Lathian, whom he contends with inner feelings hard. I swear to God, I think this Lathian experience is doing some kind of a drug. Here's another reference here. It says, the Pak Suba used the word crisis to refer to the state which may be entered by a Subud member practicing the Lathian, in whom the contents of the inner feeling, heart and mind are being exposed to the surface. They're losing their frickin' minds. In one kind of crisis, this is said to occur in a violent way, such as that person, quote, forgets all good manners and social behavior. I mean, this sounds exactly like these people are involved with some psychedelic drugs. It says here, it goes on to say, it says the Lancet Medical Journal, I don't know what that is, Lancet Medical Journal, in 1961-1962 published 4 letters on apparent states of psychological crisis associated with the Subud membership. The letter R, McNennis took issue with the view of G. Gaff that Subud crises are psychogenic, whatever that is. A study of psychiatric illness in Subud in England reported anxiety, depression, delusional thoughts, and hallucinations, as well as neurotic, self-degrading, aggressive, and violent forms of behavior among 3 patients hospitalized after participating in Subud. My God, these people lose their freaking minds. The study says, quote, get a load of this, they seem to have been unable to cope with the stress of the Lathian, and because of their inability to approach it with a moderation, participated more and more, thus potentiating their anxiety and distress. And I don't even know what this word is. Oh, enmeshing themselves in a vicious cycle. God almighty, this sounds like insanity. The study explains in conclusion, it seems likely that these individuals were suffering from psychotic conflicts prior to their participation in Subud, and that these latent processes were exacerbated by their participation in the sect. Boy, but no one here wants to say in this article, and by the way, I got this from Wikipedia, but it's clear in my mind right now they were doing drugs. That's part of their rite to passage, that Lathia or whatever the hell that was. Okay, now you're going to see, I should write this down. That's it's Lathian. Lathian. That's the experience of doing drugs with this Subud religion. I mean, that's just totally crazy. And by the way, if you want to call in, you can do so. Just dial 646-716-8506. Again, that's 646-716-8506. And you too can talk to the Trailer Park Prophet. Did I introduce myself in the beginning? I can't remember. Well, if I didn't, my name is Daniel Gray. I am from Colorado. And I am the Trailer Park Prophet du jour. Broadcasting live from beautiful, sunny, warm, downtown Crestone, Colorado. I mean, we're here at 9,000 feet. Still got some snow on the ground. Got a lot of snow on the ground. and it's just gorgeous. It's probably like 45 degrees outside. Me and Bailey Barker took our 3.5-mile walk today, and oh my God, I could unzip my coat. It was beautiful out today. I mean, it's still beautiful right now. But I hear the East is about ready to get slammed again, which is kind of interesting considering that we're supposed to be experiencing global warming and things don't look so good for the Northeast in the United States. Okay, all right, I'm going to do this story. I was not going to do this story. I promised myself I would not do this story. And I thought about it on my walk, and I wasn't going to do this story, but now I'm going to do this story. And we've done stories from these people before. This is from the D.C. Clothesline, airing out America's dirty laundry. And I have no way of knowing if this story's true. I really don't. I really don't. And if it isn't a true story about President Barack Hussein Obama, then I have to ask myself, well, what would be the motivation for somebody to put a piece of information out there like this? What would be the reward to concoct some intriguing international story line about President Barack Hussein Obama? And yet, here is a new story. It was posted on the 26th, yesterday, by a guy named Dr. EOWYN. And the headline of the doctor's story is Yet Another Name for Obama and How He Connects with His Mother with a Dead Hawaiian Official. Now, I know this story's been out there, at least the part of the headline I just read to you, but there's a lot more to this story than this headline covers. But at any rate, I guess it starts with this. I don't want to throw too much at you, but in case you don't know, Barack Hussein Obama, the guy in the White House, has had multiple Social Security numbers. And the Social Security number that the president uses now is from a guy that is from Connecticut and has been dead now for quite some time. But as you know, your Social Security number has a prefix that signifies the state you were born in. And Barack Hussein Obama does not have a Social Security number from Hawaii. A lot of people don't know that, but your Social Security number says where you were born. You know, it's like a prefix, like an area code. So Dr. Ewin, he says yesterday, the mystery man in the White House has multiple Social Security numbers, including one issued by Connecticut, and names including Barack Hussein Obama, Barack Obama, Barry Obama, Barry Soetoro, Stephen Durham. Durham is his maternal grandparent's surname. Barack Hussein Sobakrith. Now here's the new name. Barack Hussein Sobarka. It's spelled S-O-E-B-A-R-K-A-S-H. Sobarka. Sobarka. Yeah, there you go. Sobarka. S-O-E-B-A-R-K-A-H. Barack Hussein Sobarka. Now, this is the sixth name. Barack Hussein Sobarka was a name that Barry's mom, Stanley Ann Durham Obama Soetoro, gave her son in her 1968 application to extend her 1965 passport, now destroyed, for an additional 2 years. Intrigued by the last name Sobarkra, Dr. Jason Kistner of the Associate Professor of Criminology at the California State University, Fresno, undertook some research and uncovered a fascinating link between Obama's mom and Loretta Buddy. The two women were both members of the Subud religious cult, which was founded by an Indonesian named Muhammad Subah Sumahad Jojo, which we mentioned earlier in the program. Now, Fuddy, as the director of the State of Hawaii Department of Health, had signed off on Obama's alleged birth certificate when he, with great fanfare, on April 27th, 2011, released an image of his long-form birth certificate. Since its release, numerous document experts have determined that the certificate to be a computer-generated fake. Buddy was the only person to die in a small plane crash off the coast of Hawaii on December 12th, 2013. Now, that's kind of unusual, right? Someone dies in a plane crash, that's very unusual. And to be the only one to die in the plane crash is rather unusual. And so this guy, John Kestner, wrote a book about Barack Hussein Sobarkra by Jason Kistner for the American Thinker on January 22nd on this year, 2014. One of the unexplained mysteries in the scanty documentation of the early life of the 44th President of the United States is the appearance of the name Sobarkra as his last name on an official document filled out by his mother. In recent contribution to the American Thinker, Nick Chase offers very persuasive evidence that the long-form birth certificate released by Obama is a forgery, while in the midst of developing an argument supporting the idea that Obama was adopted by the Indonesian Lolo Sutorno. Case states. Finally, we have Stanley Ann Sutorno's 1968 application to extend her 1965 passport, now destroyed, for an additional 2 years, as shown in figure PPA. On the second page of the application, Ann moved to exclude her son, Barack Hussein Obama, parentheses, Sobarkra, from her passport, but the item has been crossed out. Perhaps on the advice of the consulate in Jakarta, as this would have left 7-year-old Barry passportless, so it didn't happen. And this is something you need to understand, that children are on the passport of the mother. I believe generally that's how it works. I don't know if maybe you can have your name on your father's passport, but a lot of people don't know that that's how kids get started. If they travel in between countries, is their name is put on one of the parents' passport. And the appendage, Sobarkra, has never been satisfactorily explained by anyone, and I certainly don't know what Sobarkra means, but it does seem to indicate a name change or change in citizenship status for the boy. Clearly, just what constitutes a satisfactory explanation varies with respect to persons, subject matter, content, and so forth. And yet there is a very good and simple explanation for the seemingly random appearance of the Subud Sobarkra on Mother Sutorno's passport application. Believe it or not, the reason may be linked to one of Loretta Fuddy. Yes, that Loretta Fuddy, the Hawaii State Health Director who approved the release of the Obama long-form birth certificate and who has apparently succumbed to a nasty case of post-random plane crash-induced arrhythmia. Anne Sotoro and Loretta Fuddy appear to have one very odd thing in common. Both have been linked to the Subud cult, which originated in, of all places, Indonesia, and was founded by Javez Muslim Muhammad Subah, who we already talked about. Now remember that Barack Obama was born in Hawaii, and then his mother moved him to Indonesia, where she married this guy Sotoro, and that's how Barry got the name Sotoro, as I mentioned earlier. So don't forget about Sotoro in Indonesia. And then, of course, now it looks like Anne Sotoro and Loretta Fuddy also share a membership in a very obscure Subud cult. Now, the smallish cult appears to have had at least circa 2001, and according to this profile of sorts in the Honolulu Advisor, 20,000 members worldwide. Notice the picture of Del Anna Fuddy, then regional helper and member of the faith. Let's return to the Subud status in a second. Note also that the World Subud Organization seems to have been based in all cities. Wait for it. Chicago. Another Chicago connection. Indonesia, Chicago, Hawaii, 3 locales linked to Obama's life. Now, is that just coincidence? And by the way, you're listening to Daniel Gray. I am the Trailer Park Prophet, broadcasting live on Blog Talk Radio from beautiful downtown Crestone, Colorado. This is Sunday on Monday, and we're talking about our president's past and a new revelation that the president may have been using yet another name during his lifetime, and probably why the president had to surrender his law license, because on the receipt of your law license, you have to swear if you've ever used any aliases. And it looks like President Obama may have used several, and could very well be the reason that then Senator Obama had to relinquish his law license, or his license to practice law, because of indiscrepancies on his law application, on his law license application. But anyways, back to this new revelation. Let's see. Next, observe that the Advertiser's article states that the Subud was introduced in Hawaii in the 60s. More on this in the conclusion. Now to Anne Sotoro, Obama's mother. She was linked to Subud by her biographer and New York Times reporter Janie Scott, Harvard, 1977, in a book, A Singular Woman, The Untold Story of Barack Obama's Mother, reviewed by the New York Times. Loretta Fuddy was more than merely a follower of the Subud. She worked her way up the ranks and became a chairwoman of the Subud USA, based in Seattle from 2006 to 2008, and was known to Subud not merely as Loretta Fuddy, but as Delana. Loretta Fuddy. In fact, you can see that in the headline. The official Subud memorial page drops Loretta and refers simply to Delana Fuddy. Anne Sotoro, Obama's mother, close association with members of the Subud cult will be documented below, but first note in passing that all the persons, Christians, Jew, Muslim, Buddhist, atheist, Hindu, or you name it, that could have been installed as director of the State Department of Health in Hawaii ignited or alighted on Fuddy, a leader of a small cult with roots in Indonesia and connections to Ann Soetoro, Obama's mother. Second, observed that Fuddy assumed the director position in Hawaii in January 2011, just a few months before the release of Obama's long-form birth certificate. Now, what are the chances that on such a contentious issue of Obama's birth certificate would a associate of Obama's mother wind up in the position and control of Obama's birth certificate? I mean, what are the chances of that? And, you know, you're welcome to check all this stuff out. Because if we find out that this is all a bunch of bunk, then I'm going to come forward and I'm going to apologize. But still, on the other hand, this is just great intrigue. It's wonderful fiction, if nothing else. You know, and at least we get to have a little deviation from all the really serious stuff we talk about all the time. So now back to Ann Soetoro, links with the Subud, and to a brief discussion of Barry Shobarka, mystery associated with Ann Soetoro's 1968 passport renewal application. Read the following excerpt from the Subud Voice in 2011, and please note that I have italicized a couple of sentences to emphasize that the Subud staff reporter is drawing on material from the Janie Scott biography of Ann Soetoro. They aren't simply making an anonymous, empty assertion that can't be substantiated. Obama's mother and Subud by staff reporter, a singular woman, the untold story of Barack Obama's mother, a biography of the mother of the U.S. President Obama, and Durham Soetoro contains several references to Subud. As is generally known, Obama lived with his mother in Jakarta for several years. Ariana, no second name, wrote to me to say, talk to Erwin Polott, who is reading the book about Obama's mother and has already run into several literal mentions of Subud. I remember the late Mansour Matios mentioning he knew her in Indonesia, and he is mentioned in the book. I can't help wondering if we will get inquiries about the Subud, since it is mentioned often in the book, which probably will be widely read. It also is a delicious fact that our Subud sister, Mrs. Fuddy, just was appointed to her post in the health department in Hawaii in time to be involved in the documentation of fact that Obama was born there. I mean, see, other people out there recognize, like we do, that it's one hell of a coincidence that Fuddy was responsible for doling out Obama's long-form birth certificate in 2011. It goes on to say, I wrote back asking for more specific information, and Ariana replied, quote, Erwin kindly supplied some quotes in Chapter 4, Initiation in Java. The Subud members are quoted, and then on page 116, she, Ann, Obama's mother, was hired to start an English language business communications department in one of the few private nonprofit management training schools in the country. I mean, what luck! Ann found a group of young Americans and Britons enrolled in an extensive course in Bahasa, Indonesia, and the national language at the University of Indonesia recalled Irwin's Holmes, a member of the original group. She was looking for teachers, and half a dozen of them accepted her invitation, many of them members of the International Spiritual Organization, Subud, with the residential component in Subud of Jakarta. And Muhammad Mashur Madaros, a reclusive and scholarly Subud member of Fall River, Massachusetts, and Harvard, whom Anne hired as a teacher, had immersed himself so deeply in Javanese culture, language, and religion that friends nicknamed him Mashur Java. When he died in 2007, friends recalled his preference for the company of ordinary Indonesians, street vendors, and BCAC drivers over that of other Subud members and expatriates. But what might, and I know this was kind of going the long way around, but I think this is important so you kind of get what's going on here and the importance and the timing and everything. But what might be Anne Sartorial's and Delana Fuddy's Subud links really have to do with the Barry Serbakra. To help answer that, transport yourself backward in time and sit at the feet of Indonesian Subud master Babcock circa 1963. Question number 1. Many people in the Subud changed their names. Is this necessary? Is it important? How does the name change affect us physically, spiritually, or both? Babcock brothers and sisters, whether it is necessary or not depends on what you want. If changing one's name for spiritual reasons has something frequently done by followers of the Subud, Babcock and that Stanley Ann Sartorial was in fact closely associated with the Subud, it is responsible to suppose that the Sobarka arose in the same way. In other words, this part here is kind of tedious, but really they're just basically saying that if you're part of the Subud culture, that it's not a bad thing to go ahead and change your name. And that's why it looks like that Ann Dunham and Sartorial changed Barack Hussein Obama's last name to Sobarka because it looks like she was practicing that religion and wanted to give her son that identity to the Subud religion. Let's see here. And it shows these documents, and these are the documents where President Obama's mom was trying to get her passport extended, and two things may have happened here. I mean, she may have been trying to do like a couple things. I mean, it may have been that she was going to try to change his name on her passport so that when they traveled again, he would have had a name change. And that's kind of a backdoor way to change your kid's name. Let's see. Well, one explanation, Nick Chase has concluded that this signifies that Ann Sartorial had preventantly proceeded to exclude Barack from her passport renewal. Case thinks that Sartorial changed her mind about the exclusion after having been informed by the consulate. So at any rate, but what's important here is really that Barack Obama's mom was actually considering changing her son's name and using a passport, and then the connection with the Secretary of State in Hawaii, the Fuddy woman, and you can do with it what you want. But I thought it was an interesting story, and I wanted to share it with you. Here on Monday, Okay, here, moving on. Bad news for the president. Which, by the way, tomorrow, Tuesday, will be the president's State of the State of the Union speech, and I would highly recommend you watch it. We should all watch any president when they give their State of the State address. It's just, it's a time when we all go to the public square and sit down and listen to our leader, and it's a good idea that all of us plan on listening to the president, and I just think it's a good waste if we don't go and listen to the president. I just think it's important, I don't think you got to be connected to this government somehow, and I think listening to the president, if I had a family, we would sit down as a family and watch the president of the United States. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, the prophet is a little... I needed some oxygen in my organic computer, I guess. So at any rate, tomorrow again is the President's State of the Union speech. I think it's probably around, 5, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'm surprised I don't know that, but I don't. And I have a story here from Weasel Zippers scouring the bowels of the internet. And they're reporting a poll that just came out on the eve of the president's big State of the Union speech from the Washington Post ABC News poll as President Barack Obama gets ready to unveil his agenda for the nation in his State of the Union address Tuesday night. 63% of Americans say they are not confident that he will make the right decision for the future of our country. That number is the exact opposite of what it was in 2009 when Obama was sworn into office, and 63% had faith in him to make the right decisions. It is also a lower mark than it has been in his 5 years in the White House, according to the latest Washington Post ABC News poll. 63% no confidence in President Obama's ability to make the right decisions to lead. That's astonishing. Okay, so as Obama heads into his sixth State of the Union address with an approval rating of 46%, in some polls is 39%, up slightly from 42% he had in November of 2013. This is the first time since he took office that he will give the annual speech with a negative approval rating. Obama's approval ratings are almost identical to those of George W. Bush at a similar point in his presidency in 2006. The Post said in reporting the poll, other recent two-term presidents like Bill Clinton and Ronald Reagan were at 60% approval at the start of their 6 years. I mean, that's huge. While M. Nixon is in the middle of the Watergate scandal, he was at 26%. So no, Obama's a long way from Nixon levels. But the media hounded Nixon like crazy over Watergate, and this media, like we've reported, doesn't do hardly jack with all the multiple scandals of the Obama administration. So, I mean, a lot of the public reaction and public sentiment is driven by the propaganda that comes from the lamestream media, where the majority of people get their information about politics in this country. His numbers, speaking of President Obama, bode badly for Democrats, says ABC's, quote, Obama's weakness leaves his party vulnerable. Registered voters divide essentially evenly, 46%, 45% between Republicans and Democrat candidates for Congress next fall. That is a challenge for the Democrats because House Republicans usually hold the edge in midterm turnout, and it's shifted from a 8-point Democratic lead in a pair of ABC Post polls last year. Let's see. Yeah, and we know a lot of these numbers. Like only 37% approve of Obama's handling of the rollout of Obamacare. But that, basically is what the president is facing tonight as they polish up his speech that he'll give tomorrow. All right, what time we got? Let's see. We got time for another story. This is a kind of a funny story, man. This really kind of cracks me up. I got this from the Washington Examiner. And the headline reads, Michelle Obama wants $10 donation to help protect Obamacare. And it looks like we might have a video. Let's give this a roll. I'd be surprised if this actually works, but...
Before Mike could see his banking and investing on one page, he opened a barrel edge.
Alright, I'll be right back. You guys listen to this.
Bank account to help free up plenty of time for the here and now. That's Merrill Edge and Bank of America.
Speaker John Boehner on Thursday predicted that House Republicans would unveil and possibly even vote on a replacement for Obamacare in 2014. This comes 4 years after the party first ran on a pledge of repealing and replacing the president's signature health care law. Conservatives have been pressuring the party leadership to adopt an aggressive agenda in 2014 and not just play it safe heading into the November midterm elections.
Before Mike could see his banking and investing on one page.
Alright, I don't know what the hell that was. But anyways, back to this little bitty article. The First Lady, Michelle Obama, is seeking $10 donations to protect Obamacare, her husband's troubled health care insurance system, just one day before he gives the annual State of the Union address. The First Lady sent out a fundraising email to supporters hoping to use the speech to prompt donations to help Democrats in the midterm elections this fall. Now, this is from our First Lady, Michelle Obama. Yesterday, says, friend, earlier this month, because of what you did, it became illegal for insurance companies to discriminate against the up to 129 million Americans living with pre-existing conditions. Young Americans are able to stay on their parents' health care plans as they get on their feet, and we can now know that our insurance companies won't put lifetime caps on our coverage. You should be proud of that, says our First Lady. That happened because you organized and talked to your friends and neighbors, and you chipped in what you could when you could. You elected Barack and a Congress who supported his agenda. Today I'm asking you to do it again. So before Barack gives the State of the Union address tomorrow, chip in $10 or more and help protect Obamacare. Thank you so much, Michelle. And it kind of seems unseemly, kind of crass, not too sophisticated. But even at that, you go through this letter again, and I have no idea where she's getting her numbers. And she said, like, the 129 Americans with pre-existing conditions. I don't ever remember knowing that number. And remember, the whole deal with Obamacare was the 35 million people that didn't have health insurance. So all the other people in America had health insurance, and it was only the 35 million that didn't have health insurance was why we needed to completely reamp our whole health insurance industry. Let's not forget that. So where in the hell the First Lady came up with the 129 million Americans living with pre-existing conditions, I don't know. Or maybe they just broadened the amount of pre-existing conditions, what that included. I don't know. It doesn't seem right to me. And, you know, they always talk about allowing kids to stay on their insurance plans of their parents. Well, you could have done that with a one-page bill. And the same thing with the pre-existing conditions. Had you just set, you know, the way to have handled that, and the way the Republicans would have handled that, would be to group those people together into one plan, or to just subsidize those individuals that had those pre-existing conditions. That's how they would have done it. They would have set up a stand-alone insurance policy where they would, I don't know, no, it wouldn't exactly be a policy, but the way the Republicans would handle pre-existing conditions, what would be to provide them with a subsidy. And let's see what else. Oh, and then the deal with insurance companies not being able to put lifetime caps on coverage. Well, you know, that's kind of true and not true because it doesn't tell the whole story. So this is an example of the First Lady or whoever wrote this letter lying by omission, because Obamacare may not have caps on lifetime coverage, but to accommodate that, they've had to raise the premiums. That's right. They had to raise the premiums. That's why the cost of Obamacare has been dramatically higher, because anytime you change any kind of the formularies for insurance, it's going to cost money. When you run the numbers, you know, you tell insurance companies, okay, you got to offer prenatal care, you got to offer psychiatric care, and you got to make sure that there's no lifetime caps. Well, the insurance companies are going to do their actuarial charts, and they're going to say, well, okay, but that means the premium is going to be dramatically higher. There's no other way around it. I mean, this isn't rocket surgery. It really isn't. And Obamacare doesn't do anything to put more doctors or nurses out there to actually treat the sick. All Obamacare does is tie up our healthcare system with more bureaucracy. Obamacare doesn't make one person better, unless you include the people that are going to work for the brand new 138 Barack Obamacare agencies that Obamacare created. And now the First Lady's out there begging for money. Okay. And let's see here. Oh, here, one lady, in reference to the story we just did, Marianne Golett says, hell no, I'm Canadian, but I do support your fight against this administration and how it is tearing America up. Okay, here we go. This is kind of interesting. This is coming out from Obama's political arm. As I told you, I'm part of Obama's Organizing for America, and on the heels of Barack Obama's State of the Union address, Organizing for Action is sent out a survey, so I thought we would take it and be kind of fun. It says, President Obama is delivering the State of the Union on Tuesday, January 28th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Before he takes the floor, OFA, Organizing for Action, wants to hear from you. Which issue are you most looking forward to hearing about in the State of the Union? let us know right now. And then, of course, Organizing for Action has, you know, a beautiful picture of Barack Hussein Obama and his logo and, you know, all of that stuff. So I thought we would, you know, fill this out. And since we're on break, I got to remind you, my name is Daniel Gray. I am the Trailer Park Prophet, broadcasting live on Blog Talk Radio from beautiful downtown Crestone, Colorado. This is Sunday on Monday. Muchas gracias for being here. Okay, so I got to put in my email. I put in Trailer Park Prophet, TRAILERPAR, Prophet, PROPHET. Oh, right there. See, I think I'm already part of this, and they want my zip code. All right, 81131. And then, okay, here's the question. What issue are you most excited to hear about in the State of the Union? Well, you know what he's going to talk about is income inequality. He's going to talk about income inequality is going to probably be like 75% of President Obama's speech. So he's going to talk about that, income inequality. What issue are you most excited to hear about in the State of the Union? I'm going to put down balanced budget. Or what would you put down? What would you be excited to hear about? I could put something in there like your boyfriend. Are you smoking pot again, Mr. President? Oh, what do I want to do? What am I excited to hear about from the president? How's his basketball game? Does he have a new girlfriend? Does he have a new boyfriend? Oh boy, what do I want to do? I got to be careful here. I'll just say the economy. I'm going to submit. Yeah, I didn't want to be smart ass. Oh, but here we go, the next page, another beautiful black and white picture of the president without a tie. And it says, thanks for sharing what you care about. President Obama will set the national agenda in the State of the Union address. It takes grassroots organizing to get it done. Make a donation to support his work today. And you can select the amount anywhere from $15 to $1,000 or other amount. And let's see. And it gives you some rules. The contribution can't be from a corporation. This contribution is not from a political action committee. This contribution is not from a currently registered federal lobbyist or foreign agent. You can't be under 16. And all of this, of course, is paid for by Organizing for Action. And, of course, they're copyrighted. I don't know. I mean, I guess this is just politics in 2014. Alright, so anyway, I put in the economy. That was kind of fun. Alright, this picture's kind of crazy. Let's see here. I got this. I think I got this from my friend Cortland. And it's a picture of a huge lake in China that's dried up. And out in the middle of this dried up lake is this awesome structure with a tower and at any rate. But this article says that you're looking at what used to be a lake weeks ago, and a big one. Ponyang, China's largest freshwater lake, covering an area twice the size of London, has completely dried up because of an ongoing drought. The region is now facing water shortages, and the local fishing industry has been decimated, which means no food for almost 500,000 migrating birds. I mean, this picture is devastating. And remember, we're having a drought in California, too. I want to be fair and honest in our reporting of weather trends and global warming. And here's an interesting story. This comes from Fox News, and the headline is, "Black hole theory, my biggest blunder, Stephen Hawking says." Now, Stephen Hawking is the guy who discovered or theorized that there are black holes. Stephen Hawking now says light and information may be able to escape from black holes, doing about face on the objects that help cement his reputation as the world's preeminent scientist. New Scientist reports in 1974, Hawking's book took a black hole theory and added quantum mechanics, sparking a debate that rages to this day. But now, after a bet with another physicist, Hawking says things may be able to escape from black holes. According to a New Scientist, Hawking originally said that when a black hole dies, it takes everything inside with it. Now, 40 years later, he is arguing that it might be possible for light and information to escape. Now, I never heard about information being gobbled up by black holes. I mean, that's kind of an interesting twist for me. And it goes on to say black holes have apparent horizons. Surfaces that can trap light but can also vary in shape, leaving the potential for light to escape, the report said. According to the New Scientist, Hawking says the solution is to give up the one very thing that makes black holes so mysterious, the event horizon. On his 70th birthday, God, I didn't realize he was that old this month, Hawking told the website that he regards his idea that information was destroyed by black holes as his biggest blunder. Sounds like he just wanted some attention drawn to his 70th birthday. Alright, let's see here. This story comes from the Blaze. And feminist blogger Amy Glass describes herself as a thought catalog, as powerhouse, lover of startups, big ideas, and the future. One of her big ideas is pointedly reflected in one of her blog posts titled, "I look down on young women with husbands and kids, and I'm sorry." Not surprisingly, it has been generating some attention of late. Her premise is summed up in the question, do people really think that a stay-at-home mom is really on equal footing with a woman who works and takes care of herself? Here's more. Having kids and getting married are considered life milestones. We have baby showers and wedding parties as if it's a huge accomplishment and cause for celebration to be able to get knocked up or find someone to walk down the aisle with. These aren't accomplishments. They are actually super easy tasks. Literally anyone can do them. Tell that to somebody that can't have a baby. Oh my God. They are the most common thing ever in the history of the world. They are by definition average. And here's the thing, why on earth are we setting or settling for average? You know, but I would have to respond to that. If you turn out a beautiful human being into the world because of your parenting, you're really doing a service to humanity. And people do have to reproduce, and hopefully we will continue the human race. So this woman is absolutely wrong, because if we want a better world for our children, or even for the children of other people, then we would want them to be good human beings. And the best way to turn out to be a good human being is by coming from a stable home life. And you're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. And the fact is, the best human beings come from mother-father households. It's proven. They have less depression, less abuse of alcohol and substances. They do better in school. They do better in life. They're less likely to be on welfare. She goes on to say, if a woman can do anything, why are we still content with applauding them for doing nothing? So now she's being so brutal and mean, as saying that rearing children is doing nothing, like a waste of your time. I mean, that's really mean. You know, and that's exactly how progressive socialists are. They're just mean. She goes on to say, I want to have a shower for a woman when she backpacks on her own through Asia, gets a promotion or lands a dream job, not when she stays inside the box and does the house and kid thing, which is the path of least resistance. The dominant cultural voice will tell you these are things you can do with a husband and kids, but as I have written before, that's a lie. It's just not reality. You will never have the time, energy, freedom, or mobility to be exceptional if you have a husband and kids. What a horrible thing to say. And it reminds me of a famous poem by Martin Luther King about if you're a street sweeper, be the best darn street sweeper that you possibly can be. And that's just on the outskirts of what this woman's talking about. And here's a few reactions. Amanda Carpenter says, way to go, Amy Glass. You win the dumbest opinion piece on the internet today. She also says, must be heartbreaking for every accomplished woman who is married and has kids to learn she'll never be exceptional. By far the ugliest thing I've ever read written by another woman. Locked down on young women with husbands and kids. If marriage and motherhood aren't on her agenda, more power to her, but to attack people with different choices is kind of evil. I agree. And Crystal says, I have a couple of names for women like this, but I'll stay civil and say, bless her heart. And Christy says, apparently raising your own kids is lame and stupid, according to Amy Glass. She and Wendy Davis of Texas should be best friends, and they aren't already. Have we seen any Amy Glass and Wendy Davis in the same room before? Oh, okay. Well, we don't have time to go into Wendy Davis. Wendy Davis is a woman that's running for governor in Texas, and turns out she gave up her kids for adoption when she purported something different in her campaign literature. At any rate, something with Wendy Davis's children is cause for concern. I've been meaning to go into that, but I don't know. It's not that big of a story, and it's one of those stories we can jump on at any time. I know the drive-by media is all over it, but I know they're not. I know they're not on this story. I got this from my friend Vanessa Anderson, conservative black woman. She writes here, Walmart is laying off 2,300 employees from Sam's Club, yet progressives want to bring back 13 million to 30 million illegals here. Alright. Who's going to pay for these people? Where are they going to work? Not a good sign for the economy when Walmart is laying off folks. What has happened to your sense of self-preservation, America? The move is damn near suicidal. And she's saying that the federal government wants to bring in an additional 13 to 30 million additional illegal aliens. She says illegals can't do my job, but some of you mofos are going to be in a fight for your life. And she says head in sand causes sore broke asses. I don't know, that was funnier when I read it the first time. Alright, by the way, you're listening to the Trailer Park Prophet. My name is Daniel Gray, broadcasting live on Blog Talk Radio from beautiful downtown Crestone, Colorado. Looks a little bit overcast. We were supposed to get some snow, but because of a Nino, I think is how you pronounce it, we got the storm actually diverted around us. Alright, I don't really want to do this. Alright, I'm just going to summarize this story to you, because I probably, I got to start doing these Robert Reich. I need to get on Robert Reich, because as I've told you before, he's sort of the academia's, the lamestream media's point man. Robert Reich is acting as Barack Obama's point man, spokesperson to academia and the media. And he's talking about a guy named Tom Perkins, who is a multi-billionaire and co-founder of Silicon Valley's most renowned venture capital firm. And he wrote a letter to the Wall Street Journal. And what this guy Perkins, the letter is actually right here. And it says, letter to the editor, Wall Street Journal, Friday, January 24th, 2014. And he's talking about how, I'm not going to do this story. Never mind. It's just kind of, well, no, now that it started, I gotta spend some time on it. I'm sorry. Well, what Perkins is inferring is that the progressives, or who I call the progressive socialists, are using a tactic that was used in Germany in the 1920s and 30s to intimidate Jewish people and to find a person to be the scapegoat for all the woes Germany was experiencing, primarily because of the after effects of World War I. But what the Nazis were doing were focusing all of the pain and agony of Germany on the Jews. Focus it on the Jews. And then the Nazi Party can control their message, control enough of the population that they can gain a majority. But it was a tactic that has been used in campaigns over and over and over, and it's something that the progressive socialists do all the time, and that is to focus people's hate on the opponents of the progressive socialist movement, i.e., look at how people hate Sarah Palin. Look how people hate the Tea Party. And they've been trained through the media to know who to hate. And I did a piece a long time ago. It was called the Fashion of Hate, when hate becomes fashion. And now in America, what has happened with the progressive socialist movement is that it's fashionable to hate conservatives. It's fashionable to hate Tea Party members, Republicans, and so on. And it's beyond the realm of reasonable thought and logic, and is in the reptilian part of the brain. That's what this guy, Tom Perkins, this multi-billionaire, is saying, that this is where we're at today with the progressive socialist movement, that they've so targeted conservatives that they're emulating what happened in Nazi Germany. And it's called the progressive crystal knot. Now, the crystal knot was the night in Germany when the Germans, after all this ferment from the Nazi propaganda machine, actually went out and took action. And they went and broke all the storefront windows of Jewish businesses in Germany. And it was called the Kristallnacht, meaning breaking of the glass. And so this guy, Tom Perkins, is relating what happened in the 1920s under Nazi Germany to what's going on now with the progressive socialist movement. And so he's borrowing this word. And in his letter he writes, writing from the epicenter of progressive thought, San Francisco, I would call attention to the parallels of fascist Nazi Germany to its war on its 1%, namely its Jews, to the progressive war on America's 1%, namely the rich. From the Occupy movement to the demonization of the rich embedded in virtually every word of our local newspaper, the San Francisco Chronicle, I perceive a rising tide of hatred of the successful 1%. There is outrage, public reaction to the Google buses carrying technology workers from the city to the peninsula, high-tech companies which employ them. And in case you don't know this story, this was a big deal in San Francisco, that environmentalists and people who believe in income inequality saw these Google buses going through San Francisco picking up their workers to take them to work, to avoid them all driving to work. They saw this not as a effort to clean the environment, but as a demonstration of the rich and the privileged. So they totally took it the wrong way. And let's see, moving on, there is outrage. Wait, hang on, where am I? Lost my place. There is outrage, public reaction to Google buses carrying technology workers. I just mentioned that. Okay, here we go. We have outrage over the rising real estate prices which these techno geeks can pay. We have, for example, libelous and cruel attacks in the Chronicle on our #1 celebrity, the author Danielle Steele, alleging that she is a snob despite the millions she has spent on her city's homeless and mentally ill over the past decades. This is a very dangerous drift in American thinking. Kristallnacht was unthinkable in the 1930s. Is its descendant progressive radicalism unthinkable now? Tom Perkins. So he's begging the question. I mean, all this class warfare has to have a consequence. And what Tom Perkins is saying is that you can look to San Francisco as sort of an example or a birthplace for radical ideas. And if it gets into the culture of American youth that it's all right to throw stones at the 1%, at their houses and cars, then you could unleash I don't know, civil disobedience against rich people. And remember, these are the same person that's going to throw a rock is what Marx would call a useful idiot. So they're not going to really delineate between who's really rich, and they're not going to know who's part of the 1% and who isn't. I mean, they're going to look at somebody who has a nice house, some nice cars, and they're going to say, hey, close enough to me, that looks like 1%. I don't have 1% of that, so close enough, and then they get their windows broke out. Because these guys are going against the techno geeks, and a lot of these techno geeks, they're not part of the 1%. I mean, they're doing good, but they're not part of the 1%. They might be making $500,000 a year, but that doesn't make them part of the 1%. To be part of the 1%, I mean, I don't know exactly what that number is, but you got to be in hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. And again, I want to remind you that 12% of the 1% are academics. And this guy Tom Perkins is really begging a rather a worthy question. He brings up a worthy question. With all of this hyperbolic emotional rhetoric that comes from the progressive socialist movement, is this really Nazi Germany all over again? Are the 1%, or the people that are perceived as the 1%, are they the new Jews that are going to wind up persecution by the majority? It's a scary thought. I understand now what this guy's trying to say, Tom Perkins. And this is the message. This class warfare is the same message that politicians have been using, populist politicians have been using since before Greek times. This is nothing new. The same strategy. And the president tomorrow is going to be talking about income equality, and he will be putting more pressure or more thoughts in people's heads that they're oppressed by this 1%. President Obama will do more to divide the country tomorrow than anything else. He's a divider. He's not a uniter. And he understands, that 60 million people that he needs in the Democratic base, he understands that they have an inherent disdain for people with wealth because they've been pretty much bred that way. They've been certainly educated that way. Alright, let's see here. Moving on. You're listening to the Trailer Park Prophet. My name is Daniel Gray. I am live on Blog Talk Radio from beautiful downtown Crestone. I almost said Crested Butte. And let's see here. I probably should go to my studio and see if I have any callers. I don't. If you would like to call into the program, you can do that. All you got to do is dial 646-716-8506. Again, if I missed you, I probably missed somebody. I'm sorry. Call back again. I always miss somebody. You guys, you got to hang on longer. It probably sucks. You're on there too long. I got to do a better job of checking. Oh, wait, here we go. Another story about the lamestream media editing news. And this happened with conservative senator from Texas, U.S. Senator Ted Cruz. Senator Ted Cruz, Republican from Texas, appeared on CBS Face the Nation on Sunday morning and was met with a barrage of questions from host Bob Schieffer about his involvement in the government shutdown. Apart from being the victim of Schieffer's accusations that the Tea Party senator was to blame for the shutdown, it also appears that Mr. Cruz was victim of editing by CBS News. Based on video from Senator Cruz' YouTube page and what aired on today's Face the Nation broadcast, the senator's comments surrounding Barack Obama's abuse of power were edited from the program. Instead, what aired was a segment that ignored many of the senator's complaints directed at President Obama. And that really doesn't surprise me. Now, we might even have this for you. Let's see. This is Play All. In the video that aired on CBS, the interview between Schaefer and Cruz ended with the following back and forth. Oh, okay, I see. Let's see, maybe we should play this first. Here, I think this is what
you run for president? Well, look, my focus is on the challenges facing this country right now. It's on the Senate. My focus, for example, is on the abuse of power from the president. Let's take something like the IRS scandal.
So do I take that as a yes or a no? Or still
well, what you can take that as is that my focus is standing and fighting right now in the Senate to bring back jobs and economic growth. Economic growth is my #1 priority.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you, Bob.
All right, now here's what actually got aired on CBS yesterday. Okay, let's see here. Here we go. Come on, Senator Cruz.
Right now, it's on the Senate. My focus, for example, is on the abuse of power from the president. Let's take something like the IRS scandal.
So do I take that as a yes or a no? Or still
well, what you can take that as is that my focus is standing and fighting right now in the Senate to bring back jobs and economic growth. Economic growth is my #1 priority. And let me tell you something that deeply concerns me. It's the abuse of power from this administration. We've seen multiple filmmakers prosecuted, and the government's gone after them. Whether it was the poor fellow that did the film that the president blamed Benghazi and the terrorist attack on, turned out that wasn't the reason for the attack. But the administration went and put that poor fellow in jail on unrelated charges. Or just this week, it's been broken that Dinesh D'Souza, who did a very big movie criticizing the president, is now being prosecuted by this administration.
Senator,
Bob, can you imagine the reaction if the Bush administration had gone and prosecuted Michael Moore and Alec Baldwin and Sean Penn?
Senator,
it should trouble everyone that this administration uses government power and the IRS in particular
Oops.
is an
target
their enemies, and you're talking in a few minutes to Chuck Schumer.
We're going to leave this for another day,
on the
Senator.
administration.
Thank you so much for joining us.
So obviously the senator from Texas, Senator Cruz, had a lot more to say
We'll talk to you again. We'll be back in a minute.
Thank you.
about corruption and Barack Hussein Obama than actually...
Jackson Lee, Senator Ted Cruz, and an issue that has brought these two political foes together. Senator Cruz and the Congresswoman.
And I know a lot of people out there are going to say, okay, yeah, right, you know, CBS has a right to control their content, and if they didn't want to hear the senator say that the President of the United States was abusing his power, then that's their right, which truly it is their right. But I really feel like if you're going to make out to be a news organization or a journalistic organization like CBS does, that you'd want to be in a position to give both sides of any story, no matter if it's uncomfortable or not. Because if you actually have a U.S. senator claiming that the President of the United States is abusing his power, and you cite Benghazi and you cite the IRS scandal with the Tea Party and their actual reasonable accusations that the President's administration has been involved in unlawful activity, and in the case of Benghazi there's been lives, and a U.S. Senator wants to make that claim about the President, I think that's news. I think that's news. Whether you like it or not, when a president is attacked even by someone from another party who has the standing of U.S. Senator, that's news, in my opinion. And it was clear that that was cut out of that CBS piece. And that would be lying by omission. Okay, here, let's see here. I got this from my good conservative black friend from California, Kevin McGarry. He writes here, lest we forget, in framing a government which is to be administered by men over men, the great difficulty lies in this. You must first enable the government to control the governed, and in the next place, oblige it to control itself. That's from James Madison, Federalist Papers, number 51, written in 1788. This is the razor's edge, for sure, Madison confirms. Good government requires a delicate balance, and quite wise and prudent men, to be sure. Our current President and Congress are neither balanced, can't control themselves, wise or prudent. The wise admonition confirms we are in a precarious predicament indeed. And I actually share the sentiment of my friend Kevin McGarry, and I worry that our country is on the precipice of economic ruin or calamity. But I'm encouraged in part by the words of James Madison, insomuch as people over 200 years ago understood the nature of man and why they put together our constitutional republic, recognizing that men are inherently driven to corruption and loss of virtue. Oh, and here Wait, what's this? I think we already reported on this. This is kind of like what we were talking about a little bit ago. And again, I want to make sure there's nothing new here. This is this guy who, again, this is the guy that founded the religion we were talking about, the Subud. And this shows a picture of him. Has Obama's past been decoded? Founder of the Subud bears striking resemblance to Barack Hussein Obama. And I mean, you should look at him. I know I talked about this on Friday, but good God, here's another picture. And this guy that started this religion we were talking about looks like Barack Hussein Obama. I'm telling you. And you can go to my Facebook page and check it out. Now, where does this article come from? Oh, the Birther Report, and it's written by Sharon Roundow, and it was published on the 26th of this month in a P.P. Simmons News and Ministry video released on Saturday. Pastor and P.P. Simmons co-founder Carl Gallups provides a narrative based on a recent article published by the American Thinker. That's what we talked about on Friday, which hypothesized as to the reasons the name of Shubakra, which we were talking about earlier, appeared on documents released by the U.S. State Department on July 2010, said to be passport application for Obama's mother, Stanley Ann Durham. The biographical line of the author of the AT article, Jason Kisner, we talked about him, states that he is an associate of criminology at California State University, Fresno. We talked about that. Questions about the origins of Durham's alleged son, Barack Hussein Obama, have swirled since 2007 when commentator Chris Matthews stated on air that he was born in Indonesia and had a Islamic background. Oh, I remember that. Or I actually remember references to Chris Matthews making that statement. Since his first campaign for presidency, Obama has claimed that he is a faithful Christian, although he attended church with and was taught by Black liberation theology in Chicago for many years, led by the Reverend Jeremiah Wright. And the U.S. Constitution, remember, mandates that the President and Commander-in-Chief must be a natural-born citizen, which most Americans understand to mean born in the USA. However, historically, the citizenship of the parents was a determining factor. Also, perhaps more important than the birthplace of the child, children of foreign diplomats stationed in the U.S. are not granted U.S. citizenship, but rather are born citizens of the nations of their parents' citizenship. Since its passage, the meaning of the 14th Amendment has been misinterpreted to include as citizens anyone born within the borders of the United States, regardless of jurisdiction to which the parents belong. And let's see. So, yeah, God, I forgot about this connection. And then it goes into a bunch of other stuff. Oh my God, and makes reference again to Fuddy and Lahan. And I mean, you got to look at this guy. I'm telling you, he looks like Barack Hussein Obama. This guy that started the Subud religion that we were talking about earlier on in the program. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, there's just so much detail here in this article. This article has, I imagine, 3 times the information as the last article we talked about in regards to this guy who started the Subud religion. Subud. I mean, go to my Facebook page. I'm telling you, man, he looks like Barack Obama. A lot more than that black guy that who actually has the same name, Barack Hussein Obama Sr., the guy that was born in Kenya, the drunk that killed himself. He doesn't look like Obama at all. You look at this guy, he looks like Obama. Let's see here. You know, this is kind of, everyone wants to know what's going to be in the President's State of the Union address. And most everybody thinks it's going to have something to do with income inequality. And, being a trailer park prophet, I'm looking into my crystal ball, and that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing probably 75% of the speech talking about income inequality, and we don't want to be those kind of people, and we can change it, and if you're either for us or you're against us. And so this lady, Katie Palvich, is weighing in on what the president's going to talk about, and I'm assuming she has an advance copy, and this is coming from Town Hall, and this was posted today, and she says, tomorrow night President Obama will take to the podium to give his 2014 State of the Union address. His audience is a tough one, with the American people overwhelmingly unhappy with the continuing jobless economy and with Obamacare destroying the middle class, not to mention a majority of the American people think President Obama is dishonest, untrustworthy, and believe his White House is incompetent. White House senior advisor Dan Pfeiffer went on Fox News Sunday over the weekend to give his preview. Income inequality is expected to be a major centerpiece of Obama's speech in an effort to distract away from the president's failing signature achievement of Obamacare. In addition, President Obama is expected to tell Congress again that he isn't afraid to take executive action should he fail to do what he wants, or if they fail to do what he wants, and has already declared 2014 as the year of action. Other major topics to look for: illegal immigration, marijuana legalization, NSA reforms, terrorism, unemployment benefits. Washington Republican Representative Kathy McMorris Rogers will deliver the Republican response to the president's speech. Utah Senator Mike Lee will give a response on behalf of the Tea Party Express. So let's give a listen here to Dan Pfeiffer, one of President Obama's spokespersons on Fox yesterday. All right, Mr. Pfeiffer, welcome back to the Trailer Park Prophet Show.
When you only have one hand, you're not doing anything as fast as you used to. Which is funny, because I still do it better than her.
I don't think I was meant to sleep. It's a little frustrating. Look.
I can't help out as much as I used to.
Help.
Let's open it up.
It's a super sweeper.
Scoop of dusters. Make it extend so I don't have to get on the step stool. I don't know how it stays on there. It's like a dirt magnet, just like my kids.
This is a danger zone.
A Swiffer! A little advertisement. That's not going to kill us. Give me a break here. All right, here we go. Dan Pfeiffer on...
And hello again from Fox News in Washington. President Obama says 2014 must be a year of action for the country. But that follows a year when his agenda went nowhere on Capitol Hill. Here to preview Tuesday's State of the Union address is White House senior advisor Dan Pfeiffer. And Dan, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
All right. We hear that Tuesday night, for the third straight year, the president's main theme is going to be income inequality and building ladders of opportunity. Here's what he had to say about that last year.
It is our generation's task, then, to reignite the true engine of America's economic growth. A rising, thriving middle class.
What new or different ideas will the president offer this year to achieve that?
I think what you're going to hear from the president on Tuesday night is a series of concrete, practical, specific proposals on how we restore opportunity through a wide set of means: job training, education, manufacturing, energy. And these will be some legislative proposals, but also a number of actions he can take on his own.
All right, I want to pick up on that because, as we say, this is a familiar theme for the president. He talked about it a lot the last 2 years. Let's look at the Obama record, what he proposed and what happened to those ideas last year. The president proposed raising the minimum wage to $9 an hour. No progress. Creating a network of 15 manufacturing hubs. No progress. Universal preschool. Nothing. Major tax reform. Nothing. Tell us about this memo that is in the papers today that you wrote and the president has apparently accepted to basically work around Congress more and to do more through executive action.
I'd actually just take a quick issue with what you just said there. You say nothing happened on manufacturing hubs. It is true Congress did not pass the proposal we want, but we went on our own, pulled money against the federal government, and have announced two. There's one running in Youngstown. The president was in North Carolina last week.
But the 15 that he asked for,
right, and 4 of them were done. Two are in place, and 2 are in the pipeline.
Okay.
Universal pre-K, we don't have the big proposal, but we made some progress in the budget. So we are working where we can with Congress and acting on our own where we can. And I think the way we have to think about this year is we have divided government. The Republican Congress is not going to rubber stamp the president's agenda. The president's not going to sign the Republican Congress's agenda. So we have to find areas where we can work together. We can start by extending unemployment benefits for 1.6 million Americans, pass a farm bill, pass immigration reform, infrastructure, so an array of things we can do together. No one's going to get everything they want. We can do that. But also the president will save the country. He's not going to wait. He has a pen and he has a phone. He's going to use those to move the ball forward to create opportunity.
But, you know, there have been presidents before, Ronald Reagan, a number of them, who have dealt with Congresses of the different party and have been able to get things through, a lot of serious stuff through. Why can't this president?
Well, we have made progress. We got a budget this year. This president has the legislative.
No, you don't.
That stands up to any Affordable Care Act, Wall Street reform, array of issues that we've made progress on. Look, Washington does not work as well as it should. Everyone knows that. Last year, the American people looked at Washington with the shutdown, the near default, the problems with healthcare.gov, and they were frustrated. And so it's incumbent upon all of us, the president included, to try to rebuild that trust with the American people and make progress. And what they want to see is progress, either in Congress or from the president on his own.
And how much can you do? I mean, let's face it, the big thing is you have to get legislation. That's the way the Constitution is written. How much can you do through executive action?
You can do a lot. I'll take 2 things from 2013 that don't get enough attention. First, the president put in place a climate action plan to reduce carbon pollution, taking historic steps, something he did without Congress. And then we also worked with the FCC so that we have an initiative in place that is moving forward to provide wireless access to 99% of school districts in this country. That is significant, something to do without Congress.
You talk about income inequality. Some experts say the real reason that you've got such income inequality is because of the weak Obama economic recovery. And let's take a look at some of the numbers there. Since the president took office, median household income has dropped from $55,900 to $52,100. Poverty has increased by 6.7 million to a record 46.5 million. And participation in the labor force has dropped from 65.7% to a 36-year low of 62.8%. Wouldn't a stronger, more robust economy and recovery solve a lot of these problems the president is talking about?
Well, absolutely. But I think it's important to remember this president inherited the worst economic situation since the Great Depression, a financial crisis.
But the recession ended 4 years ago.
Yes, and we have created, in the last 46 months, 8 million jobs. The unemployment rate has dropped to 6.7%. We're now producing more oil than before. The American auto industry is #1 in the world again. We are making progress, but there is more to do, and that's what you hear the president talk about.
Look, you say...
I think it's important to remember that what we're trying to do here is restore opportunity for all Americans, grow the economy, and create jobs.
But you talk about restoring our median household income is down, labor force participation is down, food stamps are up, poverty rate is up. If things are so great, how come this allows it?
I think we've made tremendous progress, but there's much more work to do. The president has always said that. The American businesses, American workers are doing the right thing. Washington needs to help them, and we have a series of proposals from last year and additional ones this year that will help. These are things that have been bipartisan in the past, like raising the minimum wage, infrastructure. If Congress were to do that, we would make tremendous progress. This can be a year of action, and we can make real progress, but we have to do it together, and if Congress doesn't act, the president will.
One of the things that people say is a drag on the economy is Obamacare, and I want to put up these numbers. According to a report last month, almost 400 businesses have cut workers and hours to avoid the employer mandate, and major employers like Target, Home Depot, Walgreens, and Trader Joe's say they are going to drop part-time workers from health insurance and direct them to the Obamacare exchange. Question, despite the president's promise, isn't it true that first you had millions of people who lost their policies because they were in the individual market. Now you're going to have people who are employed, part-timers, or even some full-timers who are going to be thrown out of their health care plans that supposedly they liked and are forced into the exchanges because of Obamacare.
I'd say first two things. When we passed the Affordable Care Act, every Republican said it'd be a job killer. Since it's been passed, we've created 8 million jobs in this country, for American businesses and workers.
Well, wait, the plan didn't really go into effect until October.
And second,
and it wasn't delayed the employer mandate for a year.
Long before the Affordable Care Act, businesses made decisions about who they were going to, what kind of coverage they were going to offer, and who they were going to offer to. What is different now is that if your business, your employer decides to no longer offer coverage, you have guaranteed access to affordable health care. Before the Affordable Care Act, you would be out on your own. If you had a pre-existing condition, you would never have a chance to get coverage. But that has been changed.
A lot of people are being dropped because of the Affordable Care Act. Some of these companies that were employing and giving health insurance to part-time workers are now going to drop them because of all the regulations, all the expense, and it's going to be another case of millions of people who like their plan not being able to keep their plan.
If you go back and read the papers for the last decade, you will read stories every day of employers making the same decision. What is different now is that if your employer makes that decision, you have guaranteed access to affordable health care.
You're not suggesting, though, that Trader Joe's and Target and Home Depot and Walgreens, which just announced that they're going to throw people into the exchanges, that it has nothing to do with Obamacare.
They can explain what the reasons are. What I'm saying is that if your employer makes a decision, you have guaranteed access to affordable health care with better benefits than you had before.
On Friday, the Supreme Court said that the Little Sisters of the Poor do not have to comply with the birth control mandate as long as they continue to pursue their legal challenge. Does the White House insist that the nuns must sign a waiver, even though they say that this violates their religious beliefs?
This is a matter before the court. The court's going to hear the case. We believe that our rules have struck the right balance here, and we'll see what the court has to say.
But the Little Sisters say, and the court feels there's enough support for it, that they have stayed the birth control mandate. They say, that Little Sisters do, that even signing the certification, even just saying we're not going to do it, but the third party, the insurance company can do it, that violates their religious beliefs.
Well, the court specifically says in their order that this should not be read as to have any indication of their view of the merits. So let's see what the court has to say.
But you're going to continue to insist it this way. You're not backing off.
Right, exactly. There's a court.
All right, I got to stop it there. Now, that is how you question a politician. The way that Pfeiffer there was getting questioned. I mean, that's the way to question somebody. I mean, someone in a position like Dan Pfeiffer ought to be able to answer any question on behalf of the president. I mean, that's expected. And rarely, if ever, do you see anyone in the mainstream media actually go after a Obama official like was done there on Fox News. But, you know, the idea is if you are a journalist, you are the eyes and ears of the public. And your job is to get in there into these political actors' space and extract from them the truth for the people you're reporting on. I mean, being a reporter in a lot of ways is sort of a sacred responsibility, and there's a lot of reporters out there that are committing journalistic malpractice, most particularly at NPR and the other lamestream media. All right, everybody, thanks a lot for hanging on. That was kind of a long show, a little different. Hope it was worthwhile. I know a lot of you picked my show up on, you know, that is archived, so it makes a lot of sense to do something particularly if you have a lot of time to listen, like if you're commuting. At any rate, I'll see you on Hump Day with the Prophet. Adios, amigos.